Would you ever try to be friends with somebody that you've never talked to before? Like you've never had a conversation with them, you've never asked them a question, they've never talked back to you. Could you be friends with that person? Of course not. You wouldn't be able. When I was little and I was trying to learn how to make friends, I remember my mom saying, well, Casey, you just need to be yourself and then, kind of just talk to people and get to know them and ask them questions and pay attention to what they say. That was kind of her advice on how to be a good friend to somebody, how to make friends with somebody else. But I wonder, do we forget this advice when it comes to our friendship with God? We think that maybe our friendship with God happens for an hour on Sunday morning. And so now when we haven't been able to go to church for like 3 months, it's like, well, I guess I don't have a friendship with God anymore because I haven't been talking to him on Sunday mornings. Let me say that is such a misunderstanding. Like, that's not the way it's supposed to be. The psalmist in Psalm 55, verse 17 says, morning, noon, and night, I can cry out to the Lord in my distress, and he hears my voice. And notice what the psalmist doesn't say. He doesn't say, well, on Sunday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m., you can cry out to God. You can let somebody else talk to God for you, and then maybe he'll listen, maybe he won't. What the psalmist says is morning, noon, and night. What that means is that it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, that I can talk to God whenever I want to. And it's not that I'm just talking to the air by myself, but I'm actually talking to someone who is listening. I'm talking to my Father who is listening, the one who made me, the one who understands me better than anybody else. I can talk to him whenever I want. And you know what? He starts to talk back to me. And as we talk more and more, we become friends. And then the second thing that verse says is that I can cry out to the Lord in my distress. What he's talking about, he's saying, and this is what I can talk to God about. He's saying two things. One is the one that it's like, yeah, this is what it's the most obvious thing. It's like, yeah, when I look at the passage, that's, of course, this is what it means. And I can cry out to God in my distress. Distress is like hard stuff. It's the stuff that worries us. It's the things that keep us awake at night, or the things that keep us from falling asleep. For some of us, for little kids, it's like whenever the lights go off and the adult leaves the room, that's when we feel distress. We feel a little bit of fear creep up in the pit of our stomach or in our chest, and all of a sudden we pull the covers up a little bit closer to our chin, and because we feel scared. Right now, some of us as adults, we feel like little kids when we start thinking about how are we going to pay our bills, or how are we going to get through this health crisis, or what is the next step of what I'm supposed to do. We feel distress. And so the psalmist is saying, it doesn't matter what time of the day it is, I can talk to God about those things. Now, in the years since my mom's advice, I learned something else, that if I can talk to my friend about the hard stuff, I can talk to my friend about the easy stuff. You see, when I first start making friendships with people, it's easy. I talk about the easy things that are going on, the stuff that we like, the things we have in common, the things that make me laugh, or my favorites, or whatever. And then as we become better friends, I start talking to him about the hard stuff. So do you catch what the psalmist is doing there? He's saying, I can talk to God about the most horrible things that are scaring the wits out of me. Like, I don't know what to do. I can talk to God about that. And of course, what it means then is that means I can talk to God about the best stuff in my life too. I can talk to him about both things, morning, noon, and night. And the last thing that psalmist is saying is that, and he hears my voice. This is important to remember, because sometimes I think when we think we go to church on Sunday morning because we think, well, I've got to go to church so that a particular priest can pray for me, or I can have Pastor Casey pray for me. Like, we think that we have to connect to God through somebody else. Like, we need someone else to introduce us to our friend. But what the psalmist is saying is it's actually your voice that God hears. So you don't have to go to that grandma or that auntie who really knows Jesus, who really reads her Bible all the time, and get her to pray for you. You can actually go to God yourself because he hears your voice. You see, God recognizes your voice. God likes your voice. And God made you. So he understands what you're about to say to him before you know it. He's kind of sitting there in wisdom and in love and saying, would you just talk to me about it? Could we be good friends about this? Could you just help? Could you just admit what is going on? Could you just say this is what is actually on your heart? And he's ready and willing and wants to listen. Morning, noon, and night, I can cry out to the Lord in my distress, and he will hear my voice.